Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Sheen and I am an Oxford and Cambridge graduate currently working as a strategy consultant in Dubai. And on this channel, usually we explore strategies on how to help women advance in their careers, and the tips are helpful for everybody. But today we'll do something a little bit more different. So I went on my Instagram and I asked people to send me any kind of questions that they have about consulting. And today I will pick some of them and try to answer as honestly as I can. So let's get into it. So the first question I can see here is, can an engineering graduate without an MBA join consulting? Absolutely. I joined with a PhD in material science and an MEng in material science. You do not need an MBA when you're joining fresh out of university as a general consultant. So definitely any degree is accepted. It is very well known now that you do not need to have a business background. So for example, out of my colleagues, you have scientists, you have people who've done history, languages, anything really, as long as you have transferable skills that you can reuse here, which you can get from any degree that you're doing in terms of project management, problem solving, and generally if you have any kind of experience with what consulting is, then that's useful, which you can get through internships and just summer jobs and stuff like that. Okay, a lot of questions on the interview prep. So your experience in consulting interviews, advice on interview prep, how long did before the interviews did you start prepping? What resources did you use in preparation? How did you prepare? So all of these questions is bracketed under how to prepare for the interview. So if you don't know, interviews for consulting is entirely based on case study interviews. So what that means is you will go into the interview, there's a short part of the interview that will be based on your behavioral and fit questions. It's to understand a bit more your experiences and whether you would be a good fit as a consultant and a good fit for the company. But that's a very short part of the interview usually, and then the remaining part is a case study where you will be presented either with a business case, a business scenario, or a general problem, and you're asked to solve that problem. It can be entirely numerical, it can be entirely non-numerical, and it can be a bit of both, but it's to see how you think, how you analyze a problem, how you break it into smaller tasks. So it's basically testing the skills that you will need as a consultant. So for me, I've done a lot of case study prep. I have done a lot of interviews. I've actually interviewed 2 years in a row. I do have a lot of prep experience. I would say that for me, what I thought was useful was to have at least 50 case study prep where you do it with someone else. Yeah, do not do it on your own. But when you do it with someone else and every time you're improving, that's what is quite useful, because you can do a lot of case study prep, you can read a lot of resources, but none of these are useful if you do not put them into practice, because reading a case and then thinking, oh yeah, that was obvious, I could have done that, is different to actually interacting with someone else. So number one tip is to definitely practice with someone else. I will do a series on how to actually prepare to get into consulting in terms of the fit questions, the case study preparation, where to read, what are the skills that you need, hopefully at some point, because there's a lot to say over there. But main advice is practice with someone else. How does the work-life balance look like? Do you work weekends, late nights? Very good question. So consulting is known to be very challenging when it comes to work-life balance, and it really depends on which project you're on, who your clients are, who your manager is. All of this makes a huge difference to your work-life balance. And also, as you can imagine, if a project is only 4 weeks long as opposed to a project being 4 years long, the pressure is very different. When it's a quick turnaround time, there's no way out except for working long hours. But if it's a longer project, you tend to have peaks. So at some point, there are some deliverables that need to be sent to the client, so then you will have a lot to do, but then it kind of plateaus a bit and then it picks up again. But in terms of work-life balance, you definitely work more than a 9-to-5 job, absolutely. Mine has ranged from working 12 hours a day to working probably till 8 p.m. And then sometimes till 6, sometimes till 8, but it's usually around 9:30 to 8. This is my time of work during the day. I haven't had to work a single weekend yet. And usually the last work day of the week, which depends here because sometimes we work Sunday to Thursday, sometimes we work Monday to Friday, but on the last day you tend to finish a lot earlier, around 5, 6 so that you can enjoy your weekend a bit better. So that's been nice. And because of COVID, I haven't really traveled to client site yet, so I do not know the experience of that and how does that impact your work-life balance. So I'll keep you posted on that. Are your consulting projects science focused, or they can be otherwise? Yeah, so it can be anything. Once you join consulting, especially as a fresh graduate, you get pulled into any project where they need people. You don't have that much of a say in which project you are placed on, but you can share your preferences if you have any. But the advice that I got, and which I have put into practice, is when you start new, you want to try everything, especially things you have not been exposed to in the past. So for example, I've never done anything financial services, telecommunication, and this is exactly what I've worked on. I've worked in the financial industry, I've worked in telecommunication, and currently working on more of like nature and reforestation and all of this. So nothing that I have previous experience in, but definitely a lot more interesting and learning very quickly about new industries. So that has been quite fun. But also because I have a PhD in sciences, so I can then express interest to join a bit more of life science project and medical related projects, because that's what my background is in, and that will be helpful as well. But so far nothing has popped up that has aligned with when I needed a project and stuff, but hopefully in the future. What is the most exciting part of being a consultant? I think that's a very good question. I think for me it has been just the challenge of learning about things that you don't know. So for example, when I'm working in the FS industry, financial services, I've never done anything like this. For me, even hearing about taxes and hearing about me having to open up a bank account stresses me out. So I've never had any kind of exposure. But it was so interesting for me that by the end of the project, I knew all of the key terms. I can definitely explain a lot of the key concepts that comes under banking and just finances in general. And I thought that, wow, I have developed so much and I have learned a lot. And this has happened in every project that I have done, because they are different industries and they are completely new concepts that I had no previous experience in. And I think that's what's very exciting for consultants in general, is where you get to speak to experts in a specific field, you get to interact with a client who is actively working in this field, you get to go on site and see what that's like. And because then you're doing so much research in depth and you're analyzing everything that has to do with this, you very quickly get a very good grasp of this, and then you move on to something else. And I think that's probably the most exciting part of being a consultant, because you do not get bored, and because I come from a PhD background, right, where you become an expert in some very niche knowledge that no one else really understands, and you have a very small group of people that can communicate with you on this topic. But I did not want this. I wanted to have more broad knowledge across a lot of different sectors, because I think that makes me more interesting, and I'm glad that I get to do that. Do you see yourself continuing this job for the next 5 years, considering the hectic schedule? Very good question. For me, going into consulting, I knew that I didn't want to do this long term, mostly because of the hectic schedule, as you mentioned. Yes, I do not really see 5 years, probably 2 years, 3 years, but I am learning so much, and I think once I reach a stage where I feel like I am not learning anymore, that's when I will decide to reassess where I'm going and what do I want to do. And of course, with me generally, I am thinking about, going a bit more into the content creation route. I do enjoy this a lot more. I am a creative person, and I do want to be able to be creative all of the time, because my job is not necessarily very creative. It's very intellectually challenging, but it is not creative as such. So therefore, I do want to make that switch at some point permanently. Wow, just even saying it made it very real. But yes, that is what I want to do in the long term. So at the moment, I am learning, I am getting a lot of useful skills, I am learning a lot about business, I am learning a lot about different sectors, and I'm getting paid. So this is, for the time being, it's working, but it is not a long-term plan for sure. Do consultants get to live life, or it's full of stress? Very good question. I have to say that since I've been in Dubai and interacting with my colleagues, they are the people who have the most fun. Definitely, I think even for me coming from Oxford and Cambridge, where we always tend to work a lot more because the term are shorter, we have a lot more to do during the term, but people learn how to have fun. I think you become very good at being more intentional when you're planning your fun time, because you know it's limited. So you become very good at making sure that whenever you have free time that you're going to have the best time, because you know you're going to be back to working very soon after. So it is stressful sometimes when you're on the job, of course, like any other job, with deadlines, with pressure, quick turnaround, and also it's intellectually challenging. Sometimes you do not know what to do. Sometimes you do something and this is not what was expected, and you get constructive feedback. So all of this definitely happens all of the time. Like any other job, I won't say that it's different from any other job. That's very normal. But because of the long hours, it definitely gets to you a bit more sometimes. But no, honestly, I think people do have fun. I have a lot of fun. I mean, I'm managing to film 2 videos for a week. I think when you want to do something, you find the time to do it. So that's why during the week is entirely work for me. I do not do anything else. I don't even socialize during the week. It's just work. And then during the weekend, I have a day where I do everything YouTube related. And then the rest of the weekend, I rest and I see all of my friends. And so far, so good. So let's see how it goes. Consultant in what? Okay, good question. So there are different types of business consultants. So you have strategy consultants, you have risk consulting, audit consulting, management consulting. So I'm in strategy consulting, which means that the client comes to you with a problem, and most of the times it's you devising how in the future can they grow, or can they handle the problem that they have at hand, or how they can think of new ways of expanding or growing. So it's always strategizing, so thinking about the future and how do we basically make the client better in any way that they want to be better in. So that's what I do. It's really hard to explain without examples, but because we're not allowed to divulge the examples of the clients that we work with. But basically strategy consulting is you have all kind of problems, right? You have, of course, profit and loss problems. You have buying a new company, merging with a new company, or you want to start a new project, or you want to look into something that you might want to invest money in. So whether it's a new project, a new technology, or a new business, or a startup, all of that. So you do want someone else, a third party, who are the consultants, to do an in-depth analysis to tell you whether this is a good idea or what are the other options, and if it is a good idea, how do we proceed. But it's all about analyzing the current situation, understanding where the problem is, and then offering different kind of solutions and ways forward on how to apply this solution. This is what we do. Do you film videos at night because you're working in the morning? When do you record? How do you film at work? So very interesting. I think I do not film during the week. Because I leave my setup as it is at home, and every Saturday I sit down and I just film a few videos in one go. And of course I have an editor who is very useful, and the only reason I'm still managing to actually post on YouTube, but this is how I manage it. And if I am vlogging at work and stuff, it is very easy to film. And all of my colleagues, even though they will pretend that they don't want to be in it, they do want to be in it, and they are all aware when I'm vlogging. So I do tend to be mindful not to include people who are not aware that I'm vlogging. So, but otherwise it's quite chilled. Everyone is very, very cool about this, and they're very supportive, if anything, in the office whenever they find out that I have a YouTube channel. And because some of you guys have been interviewing with the partners in my company and mentioning my YouTube channel, now they know, and they think it's a good idea, they think it's cool. So far I am very well liked in terms of my vlogging, so it's never been an issue to film. How do you stay up to date with your skills? So many changes to keep up with. Yes, there are loads of changes, but the good thing is when you're in a company, they will make sure that you are keeping your skills up to date. We have loads of training, especially when we start, on different kind of things: Excel, modeling, presentation skills, talking to client skills, and research skills, how to find reliable sources. All of this you are taught. And then once you start the project, because they're under different industries as well, you can get specialized training for that industry so that you get a bit more exposure onto what you need to know. But also throughout the year, you get reviewed, you get help from other consultants. They will advise on what to know, what not to know. And personally, of course, you try to keep in touch with the news and everything to do with business, everything to do with the specific project you're on, whether it is the region, whether it is the industry, or whether it is just the nature of the technology. All of this you try to keep on top of, especially when it comes to what's in the news and what's contemporary. So that's very, very important. But then in terms of actual skill development, the company also offers you a lot of different kind of courses that you can take, a lot of different kind of workshops as well. If you're interested, you can sign up for, but they make sure that you stay on top of your skills. So that's not something you personally need to worry about. Yeah, there are loads of questions about tips about how to pivot if you're in a different industry, how to get into consulting. And I think, again, I will do a video about this into more details, but the main thing is you need to understand what consulting is and be clear about whether you like it and what are you bringing to the table, what are your current transferable skills. For example, for me, coming from a PhD background, I knew that I am good at problem solving, I am good at project management, right? For example, two things. And of course, because I went to conferences, I am good at my communication skills, and presentation skills are very good. And again, because I used to do presentations, slide making skills were there as well. So I knew that all of these are transferable skills, and as a consultant, these are the skills that I will need. And of course, the basics like maths and being a good team player and being able to communicate clearly with your team and helping a team, all of those things, right? And once you know all of this, then you know where are you lacking, where would you need to prepare a bit more. And if there's nothing, then the main thing that you need to prepare for are the case studies. There are loads of resources online, loads of books, but as I said, the best thing to do is to practice. It's very easy to find case study practice questions online. Just get them and then practice with a friend, practice with your parents, practice with anyone you can grab. I used to get everyone to help me to practice, even people who didn't even know what consulting was. And that really helped me, because you need to be able to understand a problem that someone else is talking to you about rather than reading it, and also come up with responses, and especially because it's a back and forth of constant questions which you cannot get on your own. So that's the main thing, and hopefully I'll get around to actually doing this series and try and help you, but for now I will leave you with this. I hope this was helpful in any way. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comment section and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Until next time, see you soon, bye.